Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. I thought about this topic yesterday, and I think it's going to be a really, really, really good show. I think it's been pretty hard to come up with topics lately, but this one was kind of perfect. We're into July. That means we've had 6 months. We've gone through an entire 6 months of 2023 so far. And I think what a better time to do a podcast like the Star Citizen 2023 Mid-Year Progress Report. Kind of sounds like one of Jared's titles, right? That he tries to make for ISC. But my thought process here is for us to give them a grade on how we think that they did so far this year, but as well as not just how they've done so far, but how we think they will do. And that is kind of because here's the deal. Obviously, the grades for the first 6 months should not be great. I think this was one of the worst years we've ever had in terms of stability, able to play, features, working, things like that. It's been a very rough 6 months. So I don't think the grades are going to be very good, but I am curious on seeing what pain points other people had for the first 6 months. But I think the interesting part of the question is, how do you think the next 6 months are going to be? Because I think the first 6 months did definitely lay down some groundwork for the following 6 months and beyond, right? PES, very big deal. We've seen the mission team make, huge amounts of progress. Cargo refactor, mining update that is, heavily focused on crafting elements of the game, right? Tractor beam improvements. And yeah, it was just, if you really look back at the features that came in the last 6 months, they're very interesting and they're very like gameplay opening. Like if gameplay was your extremities, I feel like our blood vessels in our hands are opening up and we're starting to regain functionality of them, right? So if I was to give a grade for the beginning of the year, I had this grade when I was in high school, and it was called E. So, you usually would have A, B, C, D, F. We had an E where it was like, you failed, but we know that you tried. It was E for effort. And I think in terms of the first 6 months, you got an E for effort, CIG, because I know you tried, but you certainly fell on your face and failed, right? Like, it was really, really, really bad. I know that the devs were there every day trying their butt off and trying to keep those servers up, but they didn't stay up, and they didn't stay up for very long when they did, and it was not good. In terms of the features added, B, probably. In terms of like kind of game changing elements, it was pretty big, like cargo refactor and mining changes, like everything that I mentioned before. I thought that was pretty good. Ships added, F. I don't think anything was very good in terms of the ships that came into the game. Nothing that excited me in particular. I think the most unique ship was the Fury, and I don't think too many people are flying that even anymore. And then the next 6 months, it's the hardest. It's the hardest to think about, but everything that they've added opens the door for the future. And I can't get excited about it yet. And the reason I can't get excited about it yet is because I've been around for 10 years, 11 years now, I guess. I've been around for a while, and they do often put things in the game, but they don't iterate on them after. So will the mining update be iterated on and get more interesting? Probably not. Will the cargo refactor continue to iterate into the freight elevators and the larger containers and the economic changes that need to come with it? Will there be a dynamic economy within the next 6 months? Doubts on a lot of those things. I think we'll see the bigger containers as we've seen them on the Hull C, but that's sort of where I am. I'm optimistic, but very, very cautiously optimistic on the future. And not very confident that the next 6 months are going to be super interesting. 320 seems like a largely Arena Commander update with some little things speckled in. What 321 might look like, I have no idea, because I don't think we're going to see 4.0 this year, right? So it's got to be a 321 at the end of the year, and that's it. We've had no real major updates around the huge things, and if they just talk about them at CitizenCon, that doesn't really mean anything. It really comes down to when there's a card on the not progress tracker, but a card on the actual roadmap release view, right? That's when, when they say server meshing on release view or dynamic economy on the release view, that's when something matters. So that's where I'm at, but let's see where you guys are at. And again, if you do want to join the show, !Discord in the Twitch chat. We are recording this live on Twitch, twitch.tv/saltymike. But if you're watching this on YouTube, Sunday mornings, stop by Eastern time. Right now it's 7:45 a.m. We're starting a little bit early because there's a Formula One race, and some of the callers wanted to watch that. So we had a bunch of callers in, and we're going to get the show done a little bit earlier than normal and start a little bit earlier than normal. So speaking of those callers that want to watch Formula One, sick. Let's get through this for you so you can watch the race. But I want to hear your mid-year progress report, and let's start out with the last 6 months. So Future Mike here. The podcast today is sponsored by another podcast, I guess. Not really sponsored, but in case you guys didn't know, myself and Burks started a new podcast called the Desync Podcast, or Desync Podcast, where we just talk about whatever. So feel free to check it out. Link will be at the top of the description. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, we've done our second episode now, our pilot episode, and our first, and it just came out yesterday. So I really think you guys should check it out if you haven't yet. It's been a lot of fun doing it, and we hope you guys enjoy it so we can keep doing more. It's a little trial thing that we were checking out, seeing if it works. So far, all the comments of the people who have seen it have been positive, but you know how it goes. YouTube algorithm stuff is a little tough at the start. So let's use my platform that I've already made to see if we can get you guys to find out that it exists. So check it out, subscribe to it, and it's another podcast you guys can listen to on your drives to and from work. So with that, without further ado, let's jump back into the Answer the Call podcast.
The last 6 months. Well, I've been following the progress of Star Citizen since, I want to say, 2016.
Okay.
I wasn't able to play until a couple of years ago, and I started playing on 317. So based on 317.0 and this last 6 months, I think they're very exciting to me. I mean, yes, we couldn't play. Yes, there's a lot of issues with servers when 318 came out. But if you look at 317 and how long it took to get all those updates in through the year, and all the progress that we had in the last 6 months with PES and everything else that's within that you already spoke. Yeah, it broke. Yeah, it sucked. But that's a big push lately. There's a lot of more. I see more posts about patches and PTU and Evocati and everything more than I saw last year, the entire last year actually. So
that's a very good point. If we look back at 317 and the features that were added during not 6 months but 12, how many more features did we get in the last 6 months than we did in the entire 12 months of last year, right? You make a very, very good point.
Yeah, so it's exciting to me because I think everyone that plays the game, or most of everyone, wants the game to succeed. I back more the developers rather than the company itself, because those guys are working their ass off all the time.
Yeah.
So I cheer for them, and it's been rough. It hasn't been good, but again, the features is a different game to me. Mike, is literally like a whole different game to me, and I'm enjoying it now. And 19.1 is actually. I was on the server yesterday for 13 hours, so no crashes, nothing. So it's been pretty good.
And I'm assuming an EU server. I don't know what usually I don't believe this stuff, but people are saying the US servers are crashing more than the EU servers, and I do think that it is. I've gotten that experience as well, so I don't get it, but I'm assuming it's an EU one, right?
The one that I'm in right now is a US, and this one has been running for 6 hours. The one that I did 13
Okay.
hours is Australian server.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, again, I think you make a massive point that I didn't even realize. Like just look back at 317 and how bad that was. Like, if we were to give a grade to that in terms of features, it would be definitely lower than the grades that we would give for. I mean, at 318 and 319 are 318. So if we were going to give a 318 grade, I think it would be much higher. But the stability grade was a bit higher for 317, right? So there's that. And yeah, I also feel that it's been a bit of a different game. I'm able to jump in game and have more interesting experiences than I've had in the last 10 years, right, that I've been playing. So more player interactions, piracy opened up, which is a lot of fun, and yeah, it's been cool. What about the one thing that I maybe didn't talk about in the intro is, like, were there what do you think about the ships that were added or worked on, or something that you may have hoped for that there was a lot. For me, it was like kind of an underwhelming year in terms of ships.
So we did get a vulture, which that opens up the salvage gameplay.
Yep.
I know the Reclaimer has been in the game since 2015 or something like that, and it wasn't no purpose, but
yeah, but not functional. So
right. So, and I'm not a big fan of the Fury or the Antares per se.
Mm-hmm.
It was good to know those 4 ships that came out this year, the flyable ships, because I won a naval pack and a bar citizen, so I won a Carrack from it. So it was
Nice.
good. But I don't really. I do care about new ships. I do care about interesting ships that will come out. But I am more, when I watch ISC or anything that they put out, or even your videos, the one thing that I want to see is them fixing the old ships more. People have been waiting for older ships. I mean, the Bonham Marshman is like probably like the most spoke, So I much rather.
You mean by fixing, you mean like adding the ones that you purchased a long time ago that aren't in game, or fixing the things that are broken that currently are in the game?
Both, I guess.
Yeah.
Mostly, they talk about gold standard, but gold standard keeps changing so much. Now with salvage, they can take the parts off and
That was
so
very
on.
bad naming convention, because what they're doing is good. Whenever they do gold standard stuff, the way they named it, so bad, right? Because it's obviously going to improve over time, and bringing ships up to the whatever the gold standard would be makes a lot of sense. It's just it makes it sound like they're done when they finish it, which is not the case, right?
Yeah, and if they keep adding new ships more and more and more, and then have to keep fixing the new ships as well, the older ships are never going to get done.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see them selling JPEGs. I want to see the ships in game.
Yeah. I want to see them, like, we did a ROC mining operation with my org yesterday, and you do have to fly around quite a bit, so I ended up getting pretty low on hydrogen fuel. So we brought a Starfarer with us, and I was able to dock to it, and then there's like some bug where it just keeps kicking you out. I was able to get 25% fuel. Like, I was started at 25%, I was able to get up to about 50, but then it kept knocking me out of the thing. So it was like, when you said fix ships, that was the first thing that came to my mind, is like, that was one feature that we got in 317 that I thought was so good, like so well done, and then never utilized in any cool way. And even seeing a lot of the things that we see in 317 or 318, 319, like, guys, somebody look at refueling. There's so many opportunities here. It's so nice, and they haven't done it yet. They're just trucking along, moving forward. It's really sad, because it is such a cool feature. But okay, so we talked about ships. What about like video content, communication? I think at the end of last year we saw what we had a CitizenCon, right? And we saw what basically the future of ISC and SCL was going to look like. How'd you feel about that And how do you feel about it now after seeing it for a little over a year and how they've communicated, not just via video content, but on the forums? Have they improved from previous years of Roadmap Watcher comments and things like that? Or I know you're sort of a new backer, so tough one for you, but
Yeah, well, yeah. But I am always on Spectrum. I'm on a help desk call like at least 2 hours a day to help people out. But
what is it
um,
like to have a mental illness?
you know, it's actually a really good way
Spectrumitis.
to find a way that the game is going, because when something breaks in the game, everybody goes to help desk. It's like, what the fuck is going on? And it's really funny to just like keep spamming the same message in there.
Okay.
But I think communication is okay. I think it's better than last year. That's 100%. Like it's a 180 from last year. I think this year was okay. It can always be better. Like, I mean, I
Of
get more
course.
information from your videos, Tomatoes, and some other guys about roadmap updates than I get from them. It's just I don't think Spectrum is a very optimized system to pass along information. Um, I think one issue that we have a lot is when there's a new patch coming up or a hot fix coming up, is not well posted. Like, it's really hard to find that kind of information
Yes,
on
because
Spectrum.
the unfortunately they're posted in like uh chats. And unless somebody grabs it and posts it on Reddit, there's no like saved forever place for it. So it's very hard. So unless somebody like, screenshots it, there's a lot of, or like a message of the day or something like that. I'm not a huge fan of leakers, but I think that that's one thing that they've done pretty well is like if there's a message of the day, it's usually reported to people and it's saved in a more solid place that isn't going away, right? And I think their communication is still like super spread out. Like you said, like Spectrum isn't a good place. YouTube is much better, and it has always frustrated me that someone like Jared focuses on like, all right, we're going to do a specific feature update and we're not going to talk about anything that has happened this week. We're not going to, condense everything into a single thing. Maybe they leave that door open for people like myself, Noobifier, Space Tomato, Noob, Name, or Morphologist. Name, your favorite YouTuber here, but it makes us exist is the fact that they're all spread out. But we shouldn't have to, in my opinion. We shouldn't have to do stuff like that. But we do because it's just a better way to consume any Star Citizen news is having it all in one place instead of not, and
But
like the fact that you have to go search for information so deeply is pretty stupid.
my interjection would be, I mean, that's maybe the lack of information is sometimes is better, but sometimes it's also not as good, because I'm a big fan of Grand Theft Auto, for example, and we haven't heard anything from GTA. All we get is those people with rumors online. At least here we get to be in the game, we get to see the real thing, even when it goes wrong. I get to see, I get to hear, and I get to play what's wrong and what's right. So sometimes the lack of information can be good because
It's a
it
blessing and a
generates some.
curse.
Right, right. I think at this moment, and just in technology in general, just I mean, I've been playing video games my entire life, Mike. Like
Sure.
I'm 35, man, and like I was playing games when I
You're
was 7.
old, bro. No,
Yeah,
I'm older than you.
and like nowadays we get to be part of stuff like that. I used to test for EA Alpha for F1 games, and that was awful. I mean, that was just
Yeah.
so bad. And at least here, I mean, when it crashes, it crashes. But I get to be here every day, and I get to see you guys work every day, and it's just a different vibe. So if it works or not, and in like, I don't know, in 10 years at least, we are part of it. You made something out of it. I made something out of it. Some people made something out of it. So it's kind of like a win-win in some sorts.
Yeah. I'm in it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I saw you in SC the other day.
No, not like that. I have like a little Easter egg in the game, which is like one of the, so I'll forever be in the game, which is like kind of a crazy feeling and super super cool. But the idea of that, yeah, like, and then I see, I don't normally mention Twitch chat here, but the what, like a former dev from CIG that hangs out in chat a lot says Rockstar doesn't need a general player base giving over the shoulder commentary on how they develop the next GTA game. And then like hearing you mention why you like that you're able to, I do think there's arguments on like both sides there, as I think CIG does that to try to keep us engaged and interested and hyped and purchasing during those stages. But I think it's also beneficial to the player to feel, you know, to have a different experience than you do with normal games, which is really cool. I'm not going to say where it is, guys. It's an Easter egg. You have to find it. But but yeah, it's like a very, 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 very minor thing. But yeah, like back to the point is, I think you're making this argument for it is a pretty cool and just different experience than other games do, which is nice. But I think CIG does it for a couple of reasons, right? And some of them are financial.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, the next 6 months. Do you think they set up for a good 6 months, or do you think it's going to be pretty slow?
I think, based on the spoilers from ISC, that we're going to get some more stuff for cargo, which makes me excited because I like cargo running. But I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like, I get excited, but I'm not overly excited. You know, I
don't think we're going to see big things in 320 in terms of cargo. I think you're going to move more cargo, but that's it. I don't think it's going to like be a paradigm shift in terms of the way things work. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I'm not looking for massive changes. I mean, I don't do mining, but I know that has changed quite a bit, and people say it's fun now. I think it's boring, but and so hopefully they do something a little. You know, I guess, you know, we don't know.
Fix mining because it's completely broken, but it's there.
Yeah, so hopefully we get something towards cargo. Maybe not just the ship, maybe something else. They keep teasing the you know, the vehicle tractor beam, so it would be nice to see more about it. And the 32SU crates, that'll be fun. I'm looking towards CitizenCon. I've never been to one, so I'm gonna go to this one this year. I live kind of close, so.
Did you get a VIP ticket?
I did get one.
Oh snap! Nice.
Gotta mingle with the right people. You know what I'm saying? Like, just rub some elbows.
Oh yeah. What if you were able to mingle with Chris Roberts? What would you talk to him about?
I would I want to know what's going on with Squadron 42, man. That's what I want to know. I keep seeing all these reports and they keep taking it out. It almost looks like was it the game that people keep talking about the day before? It's almost the same story.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I would inquire about that, I guess. But I'm excited to see a big ship coming in. I think it's probably going to be the biggest ship they're going to have in game or something like that. So we'll see. We'll see what the dynamics change.
All right. Well, it sounds like we're about coming to the end of the call. Is there anything else you want to add, or?
Well, every time there's a race, man, I'm gonna try to be here. So.
All right. Yeah,
but
well, I guess a European race, right?
Say again?
I guess a European race, given the timing of things.
Yeah. I haven't gone to bed yet. My wife's probably gonna kill me tomorrow morning, anyways. But I'll try to watch your videos. I keep up to date. I'll try to be on doing your lives because it's pretty early for me. But I appreciate having us here, talking to the guys and girls and everybody else in between. And just keep what you're doing, man. I like it. I disagree with you on a bunch of stuff, and I like that. And I'll be here bothering you a little bit more.
That's all good. All right, man. Well, thank you for coming on, even though you hate me. It's great.
Disagreements. No. You do a great job, man. I appreciate it.
I'm kidding. But yeah, thank you for coming on and enjoy the race. Should be a good one, given yesterday, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Let's find out who gets second place today.
Yeah. All right. Later, bro.
Later.
All right, and our next caller is Delvos. Delvos, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Get me?
I hear you perfect. So the last 6 months, how do you feel? Obviously, I gave you a good framework if you
Yeah,
were listening to the last caller of like
yeah.
ships, the last few patches, the communication. How do you feel
Well,
about any of that stuff?
see, I've been around since the original Kickstarter.
Okay.
I'm a long haul. I've been here forever,
Yep.
and I've seen the ups and I've seen the downs. And the thing is that this year, yes, was a lot of downs. Sure,
Does it feel different though?
the game feels or this the game feels more simulation than it did. There's more to do, but not as much of what I like to do yet.
What do you like to do?
There's well, exploration. Straight out, exploration, poking into things, going places, looking at things.
Can you do?
I'm the kind of guy that runs all over the map in any kind of
Okay.
open world thing.
That's what
So,
I was going to ask you next is what is exploration to you?
yeah, just
Because I think a lot of people
finding out of
have,
the way spots.
yeah, I think a lot of people have very weird understandings of what CIG may have meant by exploration. I think
Right.
you don't. I think you have the more uh yeah, I'm just gonna go around and try and find the little Easter eggs or
Hmm.
a cool mission that
Yep.
people maybe didn't know about or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
if we could
That
ever
kind of
get
stuff.
multiple systems, finding weird jump points,
Yeah.
that's the thing that most excites me. That'll my grandson will be able to do.
Yeah, dude, that's one of the things that really drew me to Star Citizen was um the fact that you can find a jump point and when you did, you can name it.
Right.
I thought that was
Or
so
even just
cool.
find new things like let us find like large asteroids or something that for mining and let us name them and register them. They've talked about that in the past. You go and find these large claims and then you can turn those claims in and you can either sell it on into the economy or you can keep it and try to work it yourself. There's all these things that they've talked about and talked about. And then they've done like I just started seeing a lot of ads on YouTube for Star Citizen.
Playable now, by the way. Did you know?
Playable now. Playable now if you like running around in ships shooting at each other. Playable now if you like running around on the ground shooting at each other. Playable now if you like going out and trying to find maybe one or two things to try to salvage, and somebody might show up and try to shoot you, and then you have to fight them off or whatever. That sometimes happens. Playable now if you have a large group of people that you guys can make your own content.
Yep.
So, to me it's something it's it's a good promise, but we're nowhere near the things that were promised in the beginning because we keep adding other things on the end.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But
And so, but I mean, as far
don't
as
you
playing,
feel don't you feel like this is from now not trying to change your mind or anything like that.
yeah,
But for me, one of the things that I really liked so far about this year and where I would give them good marks on their progress report is I feel like that they made a lot of steps and strides towards what they sort of promised at the end of the year. Maybe it's not towards exploration, but I do think PES is the beginning of that, right? You're
yeah.
not going to
Well,
get your
yeah,
other systems without it and
yeah, they
things like that. So,
server meshing, PES. There's a lot of things that'll have to happen that have to be backbones
yeah.
that will support all that. Yes, and
I
that's
think about how
you
many
know
years we didn't have any backbones.
think about how many years we all just sat around in our hangars
Yeah.
staring at our ships and running in circles.
Those were the years, though, because at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
we didn't know what the game was going to be then, so we didn't have anything to complain about. We had all these dreams of what it might be.
Yep, that's true. And there's a lot of things they've done right and a lot of things they've done wrong, but the main thing is I think that if they could just with the next update really nail down PES, really nail down server meshing and give us what we have as far as, the Stanton system, give us at least one other system, but then within those systems, because they're huge, sprinkle in a few other things for people to do, you know?
Like what?
Just, well, like finding strange out of the way things, going in the charting areas. Give everybody at least that opportunity to run out and chart the new system whenever it opens up or something. Sure, it's going to be limited gameplay, but at least it's something.
Well, what would
And
charting look like? Because I'm not trying to discredit anything you're saying because I think it's
yeah,
all super valid. So don't take it the wrong way, please.
mm,
Um, don't you think charting would require a lot? Like, it's not like a simple thing to add. It's a little bit. They would have to make like a whole UI and Mobiglass or something like that to get that to work. Like charting something, I think
yeah,
requires actually a lot of effort where it maybe
yeah.
feels like it doesn't.
Well, to me, it would feel almost like, in the old days and certain, whenever they didn't have maps in RPGs and in MMOs, you would have to basically learn land orienteering. Well, you could learn the same thing for space orienteering, but you could integrate that with the Mobi-Glass. And sure, you would have to add another layer of functionality onto the mapping system. And I understand that would take a lot of time and effort, but
This is super off topic, but I don't really care. Don't you
uh-huh.
think that when you first log in after a wipe, you shouldn't know where like Grimhex is or
Yes,
certain
exactly. Yeah,
like
that's what I'm talking about. You
most
you
of the
learn
planet's
how.
surface should not be like you should know where like all the random outposts
Right.
are.
Right. Exactly. And maybe they even move because if it's
Missions
procedurally
take you
generated.
there,
Yeah.
and that's how
With
you
each
actually
wipe.
find them. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be great. And then or even if you knew where they were, you'd have to pay attention to where they were instead of just having it on the map. You'd have to know, okay, if I'm at, let's say, Lorville, I have to go east to go to this location and then go from there to here, at least learn something like that instead of having everything handed to you. But,
Yeah.
that's just me. I'm one of those weird exploration guys.
Yeah.
And I
I don't think that's weird at all. I think you're getting a lot of love on that scenario in the Twitch chat as well right now. So I don't think that that's weird to feel, but I also think if they don't let us go to these places very easily, I think we've seen the later missions that you need reputation to earn are
mhm,
usually way more buggy than the
yeah,
earlier ones, right? Because people don't
right,
actually see them enough to give feedback on them. So I think that's
right.
kind of a thing
Yeah,
that needs
that's
to
true.
happen
Yeah, that's
for
true.
now.
And but even if we didn't have that, at least if we had, you know, something something that made it worth getting in the ship and flying out somewhere,
Yeah.
you know. We now have salvaging, we now sort of have mining when it's working. We now have some limited cargo and transport, but there's no real reason to do it for the most part.
That's where, like, for me, the next 6 months to a year really Tony Z or whomever or like somebody's got to start tweaking something. Somebody's got to
Right.
start adding the interesting elements there. I mean, for me, I think the biggest feature that isn't exactly a feature, but the fact that when they put salvaging in and they allowed you to create a tractor beam is one of the most one of if not the most exciting thing that I had the entire year.
Yeah.
And if you take all the things that we currently have in the game and funnel it into that feature, my
Right.
goodness,
Yeah.
it'll be cool.
Yeah, it'd be great. And there they have a mechanism to give people an opportunity and a reason to go out into areas where probably nobody ever goes. Go over
Yep.
to the backside of the asteroid field around, one of the moons because there's a station there or there might be something there that you could go and salvage or find stuff.
I mean,
But you
yeah.
don't
What
have
about
that.
just searching for? I mean, I think one of the Starfield updates that I was like, yes, why don't we not have this in Star Citizen yet? Is like you looked at a planet and it was painted on the planet that there was copper here. There was,
Right.
like that's exploration too, and it's economic exploration. It's good.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Make those things, well, like in Eve Online and other games, you have certain commodities that have to go out and mine or find or move from one place to another,
Yep,
that's fine. But for right now, we really don't have a reason to do that. What are we
exactly.
going to build up a bunch of credits and buy one of the other ships in game, and then
And that's
that's about it,
interesting. The first one or two times you do it, and then
right?
after a while, it gets kind of old. It stinks.
Yeah,
But the I guess like to try to bring us back on track,
right.
the to continue a little bit with the progress report, ships, communication, things like that. How have you felt? Give a letter grade. How do you feel?
I,
Give a letter grade for the patches and things that were added, and how 318 and 319 were, and then give a letter grade on ships and give a letter grade on their communication
okay, on
and
the
why, obviously.
patches, at least this year, it's a D
Yeah.
to me at the best, because sure, anything they add, you can't really do, or if you
Yeah.
do it, you can't do it for long
You can't
because there's
really
crashes
experience
and bugs
PES
and other
very easily,
problems.
can you?
Yeah, exactly. And you can't really experience mining if your ship, in your ship, if every time by the time you get out there it crashes,
Well,
the game
and I
crashes.
mean,
So
mining has this instability bug that just is it's so it's so bad. I don't know how
yeah,
to say it. It just doesn't let you know what is happening, and it's a very frustrating experience.
right.
You could
Now,
choose whatever module you want, and it doesn't seem to matter.
right. And that's something they need to nail down, and I understand that, but
And they're on it.
yeah, they'll get it eventually.
Yep.
But at the same time they're trying to get that, they're adding new stuff which comes to ships.
Hmm.
I've been rocking my original freelancer this whole time. Never melted it, never got rid of it. If I'm not in that, then I got a Pisces that I go jacking around in, but I'm always in my freelancer. It's exact same shit that they released after they actually went to the game after we got out of the hangars. Nothing has changed.
Well, at least they're
Nothing has been
working on your
updated.
ship for a little bit. You're going to get
Yeah.
the ability to take in and out, uh, not gadgets, like your quantum drive and your power plant and
Oh
stuff.
yeah, components supposedly.
Components. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when they get to it, but that's always the new ships first, and then the new ships will get fixed, then the new ships will get put in, then the new ships will get debugged, and then maybe they'll come back and do some of the older ones. So
So
it's going to
ship
take a
grade.
while. Ship grade a D, because even the ships that they do put in, there's only two things that they've put in primarily: mining ships and fighting ships, and that's about it.
Yeah. Mining salvage, they're very similar, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's the same basic. You know, I don't
They've
know.
put in
I
plenty
guess
of exploration ships, dude. They just
yeah,
don't explore.
yeah. There's no reason to explore.
Yeah.
Well, you can just do what I do. Yeah, I get in my little freelancer and I go off in the BFE and jack around. So there's nothing much to do other than just go jack around. But hey, I'm out there at least. But
I guess.
but now getting to communication, I don't know. I would say lately a C plus. But
Okay.
I remember back in the days when Wingman's Hangar and about six other shows every week. If it's almost daily, you had something coming out.
I don't know if it was
So
almost daily, but there was they were definitely more engaged with the community because their community was smaller. Like
yeah,
I could tell you, even just from streaming in the last year, I've had some pretty significant growth, and it is harder to engage now with a very small community still in comparison. But I've kind of doubled in size over the last year, and it's been more difficult. And
yeah,
I can't remember everybody's name and what they do and where they came from and what country and all that stuff. It's a lot
right,
harder now than it was
yeah.
before,
Well,
and I
but at
think that
least they
they've
have come back.
suffered. I just think CIG has suffered in that area from their growth a little bit, which
Yeah.
is obviously not a bad thing.
Well, it's a lot better than it was. I mean, for a while there, we had practically nothing for a good while.
Yeah,
We had a whole bunch, then we had some, and then we had practically nothing. And then now they've come back to having some, and then they've amped that up a little bit too, to where it's a little more regular, which is good, which is all we really wanted, really, right? We just want, okay, what's happening with the game, what's happening behind the scenes, and what's coming up. You tell us those three things: what's
I
happening now, What are we doing? What kind of bugs are we working on? What kinds of things are we working on as far as features and stuff? What kind of things are happening in the background so that we know, what group's doing what, and get a good idea of, what it takes to do this so that it sets expectations for people instead of, just letting them go wild and not really know what's going on, but it sets expectations a little better. And then, what's coming out? What are we planning on? I know they can't put dates on anything, but the roadmap, just cover that, even if it's just part of one of the other videos or part of the one of the other communications. I know they're doing a lot of communication on the website too, and that's great too. But the putting out those videos and putting out those visuals, I think are going to be much better if they could just stay regular with it. Because even lately, they've kind of had a couple of hiccups where, you know, we'll go for like a month and a half with nothing.
Yeah, and
And
well,
that's
hey, the next one's coming up. I mean,
yeah,
it's not even a hiccup. It's scheduled. That's the thing.
yeah,
That's the only thing that I don't understand, and I've still not. I don't get it. Is the last ISC he said, "I'll see you in about a month," and
hmm
it's just like, oh, so we do quarterly updates, but for 1/3, or one, yeah, like 1/3 of a quarter, you're not even here to give any updates. So it's I don't know. I just have a lot of I don't get that. I
yeah,
don't get it at all. I think that there's a lot of content opportunities that they just have no desire to do. Like, why aren't we doing video versions of Roadmap Roundup and what's happening every 2 weeks, or
right,
um more sprint reports, because we get a monthly report every month. Why aren't we getting more sprint reports and like that in terms of these content droughts that they have every quarter? For me, yeah, that's the thing that I really struggle with them.
yeah. Well, and to answer one of the guys in here that says, 11 years and all this guy can do is go somewhere and jack around. Well, to me, jacking around is like, you know, taking bounties or trying to salvage stuff or just doing things other than what I really want to do, which is go out and do exploration. So everything else to me is just jacking around, whether I'm going and doing, you know, bunker assaults or, bounties or any of that other stuff. To me, that's just jacking around. That's how I'm filling my time as opposed to the things I'd rather be doing. So
Yeah. Also, don't read Twitch chat, and definitely not from the guy who said those messages. He's an idiot. But
yeah,
I think we talked about ships. We talked about
yeah.
communication. How do you feel about the next 6 months to a year, based on
Well,
everything we got so far this year?
based on everything we got this year, if they can nail it down, I would say I would give them a B at the end of the year if they could just nail down the things we have now,
Yeah.
and make them solid. Of course, if they were to give us, some kind of word saying, "Hey, by the middle of next year, by quarter two of next year, we're thinking maybe we can announce a release date for Squadron." That would be awesome. But
I mean,
I don't think
saying
that's
what
not
the
gonna happen.
release date is a very empty thing to
Yeah,
do. So I don't,
yeah.
you
Well,
could you can give a release date for Squadron, but I think for somebody who's been around the project since the beginning, well, you know better than to think anything of that. So
oh, I know. But if we can all wish, right? But
sure.
the main thing is if they nail down the things we have now, if they get PES and server meshing done and make the backbone to where they can now start from here out, you know, get Pyro rolled out, and then that give them the framework that in the next year we can roll out one, maybe two other systems, and then that would give them plenty of opportunity for also adding a lot of content because you got to fill that space, because get kick it into overdrive
Yeah.
because now you've got more area to work with. Now you've got a little more pressure on it, to make that area live and breathe and work. You know, I think that if they could by the end of the year also get the economy worked out to where it's at least a bare bones, that would be great.
Would be good, but
Yeah,
we're just being wishful here. So
I
hopefully
know.
hopefully it's true,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I don't
well,
think we're
like
seeing
I
that in
said,
the next 6 months. That's for sure.
yeah. Well, like I said, if they can at least just stabilize PES and server meshing, I think that would be more than enough to say that something great happened for the rest of the year.
We're not seeing server meshing this year.
I know, man. Quit. I'm an old man. All I got left is my dreams. Okay, I'm 60. Okay.
Keep dreaming. Keep dreaming.
I will.
All right, Davos. We'll let you
All
go,
right,
bud.
brother.
Thanks
All
for
right,
calling
you
in
take care.
and thanks for sharing your thoughts, man. We'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it. You bet.
Bye now. All right, our next and for now final caller, but again, you guys can join the podcast ! Discord if you're watching in Twitch, and stop in and share some of your thoughts on that because I see a lot of you guys are opinionated in Twitch chat, but not too many people coming on the show this morning. So you're more than welcome to pop in and share your thoughts there. So our next caller is Maxi. Maxi, can you hear me? Testing.
I can
Maxi.
hear you. Can you hear me?
I do hear you loud and clear now.
Great. Well,
All right.
hello.
Hello.
My name is Max. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Well, let's start from the last 6 months.
All right.
Well,
What do
okay.
you think?
I think there were very, very good things.
There were.
Like persistent entities streaming. It actually made me excited for the game. I saw once again, like, hey, they actually kind of pulled it off. Like it kind of works. Of course.
Okay, let's like talk about that for a second. I will jump in and share some things that because you don't really get to experience it in the way that they kind of.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
I agree.
But
absolutely.
What you know, if you really look back, and everybody, I highly suggest you do. There was a Star Citizen Live with Benoit and I cannot forget the other developer. I cannot remember his name. I believe he's German, or I know he works out of Frankfurt. Paul Reindel, I think. Yes, I think that's it. With the two of them, they break it down and say, in 3.18, these are the expectations you have. Based off of that, they have met and somewhat exceeded set expectations that they set there. The way the community set expectations, the way the videos may have set expectations are much higher than those two ever set them for us. And those are the people that we should have been listening to there. All they said was, the way the game feels in 3.17, that is our goal for 3.18. Is you're not going to see any grand coffee cup type of situations or as easily. You know, it's not going to happen as often, but you're not going to have a entirely different experience. We want to bring it up. We basically want to like seamlessly add this to the game and have a somewhat similar experience to what you were having before. At the start of 3.18, we did not get that because the game didn't work. But at the point where we are now, it is there. We're still in the 3.18 cycle, even though it's called 3.19. So for now, they get a pass from me. Now, Maxi, I apologize. I wanted to jump in there and make sure, because I know that some people in our community just want to be negative anytime anybody says something good about something when they know that there's other parts to it. So,
well,
to put all
I have
the info
something
out
bad
there,
to say.
That's
also.
Yeah. But let's
So,
go back to where you left off and the good, right? There is some good with PES.
Absolutely. The PES, and not by itself, but all the things that it brought with itself, like soft death, the ability to strip ships, the ability to just take away a gun from a ship and put it on my own ship was like made me most excited for this game that I ever felt for the last 5 years.
It makes me excited for the future. It really does. But they have to do the work to make it now interesting.
There's too much things that has to be added for this thing like to actually work.
Yeah.
So yeah, so here comes the bad things about the last half year. Abysmal 3.18 launch, like absolutely unplayable. Absolutely
Stability.
unplayable for how long? Like what? The whole quarter basically.
I did not really get to play 3.18
I didn't also.
until
I
3.19.
didn't play. I played PTU
Yeah.
for a couple of times, and hey, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And then when it went live, like I wasn't basically able. I was couple of times able to enter the game, but it was unplayable.
Yeah.
Absolutely unplayable.
Yep.
So
Sad.
now we are in 3.19, and it still is like 30Ks are very much. And by the way, I'd like to add to something that was said previously about US servers versus European. This is my experience also. I'm constantly getting 30Ks on European servers while I can play for hours and hours on US servers.
And
I don't
I'm getting
think
the opposite.
it's a problem
so
with the servers themselves. I think it's something wrong with the connection.
maybe. So
there's
not
that.
where you live, but you're obviously, just based on your accent, you live in Europe, right? And the fact that
Yes,
you're
in
watching my
Russia.
stream, most people are European. Okay. So yeah, you're connecting to a server very far from you and it seems to work. I'm connecting to a server very far from me, seems to work. But when we connect to the ones that are close, they don't. That's a weird one.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. So where are we? I think you're
Bad things. And here's another, the whole category of bad things, they kind of came with 3.18 and 3.19, but they are basically a continuation of the same stuff that we had previously, like things that were made earlier, they continue to break. And there is more and more with every patch, more broken things, like sounds in the ships, like whole bunch of shit doesn't work that worked previously, that worked like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So I'm done with the previous 6 months. Bad things, good things, yes.
Yeah. And we did a
About next
podcast
6
about like quality of life, right? And how it would be really nice if they just took a quarter and focused on that.
Yeah.
It would be nice.
It would be really nice. So here where we come to my excitement of the next 6 years, one of those people who are actually excited for Arena Commander.
Okay.
Because like anything else, I cannot be excited because it doesn't exist, right? Like what should I be excited next? The things that are basically is known already there.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I'm excited.
That the developer who was on ISC is watching you right now. And he's so
Yeah. I
excited.
know. Yes,
Awesome.
absolutely.
He's very happy to hear you say that.
Here's the thing. I'm here. Like I was here for the 6 years, I guess already. 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
I came into Star Citizen like when just 2.6 ended and 3.0 started. Like I saw that one and I saw 3.0 and I was wow and I was very excited and I thought, hey, we have Arena Commander, like a module, right? The game, the PU, I don't really care. I know it's broken, it's unplayable, especially the situation when it was 3.0. It was basically like worse than it is now, much worse. So I was excited about Arena Commander. I thought, hey, I would be able to like experience combat PvP, like FPS PvP there, like in a proper fast pace, in a proper how to say it, in a
Condensed?
proper amount of frames per second.
Performance.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
In a good performance. And I was so frustrated the next 5 years because I didn't get it actually, because Arena Commander was even more broken than the PU.
Oh, they just ignored it. Like they just...
Yes, nobody played it, and absolutely you cannot like catch anybody who wants to like PvP with you. You were just sitting there for half an hour on an empty map doing nothing.
Yeah, the only time I would get a Star Marine match is when I played it on stream, and then everybody would come to fight for a little bit, but like there was not a match already going.
Yeah. So and another thing, when I managed to maybe join some match, every time it ended, I had to restart the game.
Yeah.
In order to be able to enter the next match. Like, I'm not gonna play this kind of game. You know, like, what is this? Why am I wasting my time? So that was my feeling about Arena Commander all these 5 years, and now I am excited. And I am not excited about CitizenCon, because unless they say, hey, like, I don't know, in a Christmas you're gonna get beta and we're gonna release it like in February or latest May, I don't care unless they say that. You know, like, why should I?
Sure. I mean, for me, the fact that they're making it go over 2 days, and I think that they're more focused on the people that are actually at the event. For someone who's not going, I've never been less excited for a CitizenCon in my entire life. And I think last year's CitizenCon celebration was the best they ever did, because it was all done, like highly polished, perfect videos explaining what's going on and what they're working on, and not I think it's going to be a bit of a mess, and I'm not excited to cover this year's CitizenCon. I think
we'll see, of course, how it's gonna be, but I'm not excited because I'm not excited like at this project overall. I cannot be, because look, the only thing that exists right now, the only thing new is Arena Commander. Nothing else is coming. Like where's like Cargo Refactor, all those cargo lifts?
Actual
we're not
Cargo
getting them
Refactor.
any soon. Yes. So the only thing I can actually be excited is Arena Commander. Because here's the thing, I played PU in 319 for a little while because, as I said, it made me slightly excited.
Sure.
And the one of the things that I really liked when it actually worked is for FPS AI. So in those rare occasions when I managed to join a server that ran at like 10 or 12 maybe frames per second, bunker missions,
they're pretty scary.
The AI, yes. I was really, I gotta say, I was impressed with the AI when it did work in those, slight moments when it's not teleporting all around.
I found Star Citizen has made me so, like, listen, I was never good at FPS games, but just going down to bunkers, assuming that the AI can't even shoot back, I think it's made me so stupid in my decisions that when I die, because they woke up, because I'm just like standing out in the open looting and not caring, it's just like made me a worse player.
Yeah, because it gets, again, it excites me for like a couple of playing sessions, and then I see that it's more broken than not, and my excitement just evaporates, because I saw how you died on one of your streams when the guy stood in the lift and you were without armor and you just ran towards him and he killed you because he started to shoot at you when he thought you were standing.
Yeah.
While you weren't there. Like these kinds of moments, they take you out of the immersion and they just piss you off.
Yeah. It's rough. It does. Yeah. It feels like you were cheated or whatever. So desyncs never a good thing in a game, right?
Yeah. That's why I'm excited about Arena Commander, that maybe we might have properly working AI there. Like,
what are you gonna do? What are you gonna play the most, do you think? Tonk battles?
No, ships is my thing. I don't actually here for FPS, but I like when it is done properly, because the movement, the running itself, the shooting, it's done great. It's great. It's on par with the best games I've played. The way you feel your characters, the way how it's done. So now we need.
That's actually like not far off, and I think a lot of people will make a face at that. But if you've ever really played Star Marine or whatever, it's hard to quantify it, but there's this feeling of like, wow, there's something here. I don't exactly know what it is, but there's something there that is like, this could be really fun.
To make first person action like good, like to make it feel good, to make it feel right. It's not that simple of a task, and they did it. I saw that they did it a long time ago. I knew that people are working on it who know what they're doing, and it is visible, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyone who says that FPS gunplay in Star Citizen is bad or meh, he's a fucking idiot. Excuse me.
It's okay. You can call them that. I do it on a regular basis, so you guys are allowed to as well. But yeah, I mean, not interested in the PU. Very excited for Arena Commander. Don't care about Squadron, or don't care about Citizen Con. Trying to think if we covered everything or if there was anything else.
No, I think we covered everything. I vented kind of.
Hey, that's what we're here for. But all right, I guess we'll let you go, Maxi. But I'm looking forward to Arena Commander a little bit too. Not as much as you. I want the PU to be great, but I do understand that
we're too far away from it.
What's cool about Arena Commander is that at least it seems like you can start practicing for the PU with racing and things like that, and I think that's a really good thing. So, all right, Maxi, we'll let you go, and thanks for calling in, man. I enjoyed it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
it was a pleasure. Goodbye.
Awesome. Bye now. All right, now we got another caller in last minute. Night Cobb, I see you there. What's up? How you doing? I just got to get your name up there because you literally just popped in. So while I'm getting it together, why don't you give your grades for the past 6 months?
Which would you like me to start with?
Just what about the patches? What about 318, 319?
Ooh. Patches, I'll give a solid B to. I assume we're doing like the S, A, B, C, D tier.
A, B, C, D, E, F.
Awesome. I'll give them a solid B. And the only reason being is, they landed a piece of core technology that they've been touting for a long time as being the blocker. Hey, we got it. And don't get me wrong, I get it. I totally agree with a lot of your sentiments that I've heard so far on the show. You can't feel it most of the time. You can't see it. It's not in the form that we wanted it to be,
but
with the lack of like
game breaking,
matchmaking and stuff.
Necessarily,
it's not game breaking.
I think it was. I mean, that's where I do scoff a little bit at the B because it was implemented in a way that was pretty game breaking to start, and that kind of sucked. But
I'm sorry. I mean what you mean. I get what you mean with game breaking now.
Yeah, but
that's fair. That's fair.
But currently, it's in, and the experience is very similar to 317.
Agree with that. Yeah. I agree with that. For the other parts of the patches, and the reason that I've kind of, if you're looking at the last 6 months, B primary grade driver on that one was, okay, they got PES in. We've moved into a piece of core technology. But the other reason I elevated it to B strongly was, they put in some decent content with the industrial side of the house.
Yep.
I know you said it's broken right now, but I mean, like, the mining updates are good. They finally got salvage.
On paper, they're fantastic. Yeah. Once they nail down this like weird instability thing that's happening, that is just, it communicates to the players in such a weird way. It's wonderful. And then, the salvage stuff. And those are broken too. So just to put that out there, those are very broken. And your experience, I think, in 320 is going to be incredibly way better, with or without a salvage ship.
Yep. But that's the thing, is we waited for years for salvage, meaningful mining updates, and we got those this year. So granted, they're not in their final state and they need some work and all that kind of stuff, but at the very least, we're testing that and we're finding that now, and it's more meaningful than it has been in a long time. So I upgrade that, and not only that, but what I thought was really a good turnaround for this year was they weren't combat focused for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, those are big, and those are big other options for players instead of just running around doing bounty hunting and you know, mining the same Quantanium and stuff like that over and over and over again, or just hunting for rocks in, you know, the asteroid belt and stuff like that. The same style, the same Quantanium. I thought that was a good addition to the game. And honestly, I thought this was going to be the year of industrial gameplay at the rate we were going.
It still has the chance to be, but I just don't think we're going to see that major economic addition added to the game within 2023. If they didn't start it now, I don't see it being a thing, but it has the chance to be laying the groundwork for it in the future, I think. And I think they already are laying a bit of that groundwork right now, for sure.
I hope so.
Same. But I also hope that they go... I do feel incredibly bad for PvPers right now. They have, you know, been talked about like master modes and all these changes that are coming to their content, and just nothing for a very long time. And I do feel really bad for them in that way. But
I'm not sure I agree with that. Mainly because
I don't know how you can disagree with what I'm saying.
Okay, well, the big thing I would say, right? So they're waiting on Final Flight, is what you mean. Like you're talking about master modes, you're talking about meaningful decision making with regards to ship-to-ship combat, and I don't disagree with you there. But
we've had the same weapons at their like very base core, no variety in weapons. Ballistics are a mess. No armor in the game. Light fighter meta still. No need for medium fighters. Medium fighters are in this weird middle ground. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Desync, hit reg. There's thousands of problems with it because it is falling along the lines of the last caller where Arena Commander was ignored forever. This has been an ignored feature in the game for the last couple of years because of this Master Mode Squadron 42 focus, and I that's why I feel bad for them.
I mean, I feel bad in that. So I'll be honest with you, I don't just feel bad for PvPers on that one. I feel bad for all of us on those. Where I give a little bit of credit to the PvPers, and where I feel like they're getting just enough of a tease to string them along this year, is the piracy changes that have come about with like cargo. Physicalized cargo and everything like that. Like there's a big game loop now where or at least a much bigger game loop of piracy and stuff like that. I've actually seen in a lot of discords and stuff like that, people talk about, I just got pirated. You know, for years I've been just running around unimpeded on trade lanes, and now that they've got like, you know, barrel and gold as options too every once in a while, and it's, or, you know, even the drug smuggling business, you know, now there's an actual like PvP content related area in terms of piracy, where at the very least, right, the core of that exists. And I agree with you. There's no intricacy in terms of ship to ship combat, but at least the PvPers are getting some game related content, I guess would be the way to say it. So they got teased a little bit this year. Yeah, it's more interesting for them.
I just think PvPers are like a much larger brushstroke than just piracy, but pirates got a lot more updates to make their game loop quite a bit more interesting.
Yeah, and I would argue, so the things you're talking about, that's big for the PvE crowd too. Like I think a lot of us are looking forward to the day where it's like, I really want to make good decisions about what my ship is capable of based on the equipment that I put on. So
I want to know that, like, all right, this is my task at hand. You know, very, very much along the lines of a lot of Chris Roberts games, especially the Wing Commander side, is you would, you know, they would choose the ship for the role, or you would choose the loadout for the role that you were doing, and go about it that way. And we don't really have that currently, right? Like, I know I'm doing a bounty for this type of situation, and so I should bring this ship with these things and this shield, and we don't have that.
True. It's true. Hopefully.
Yeah.
We'll get it, I don't know, maybe 2 years from now, 1 year from now.
It's always 2 years away.
It's always 2 years away.
Everything is 2 years away. Where were we? We're still on progress reporting. What about ships and communication?
Ooh. All right. So ships is kind of a weird one. I have mixed thoughts. Like, I'm tempted to give them an A, and you're gonna like balk at that, but it's only because I feel like we're just at the point in time where it's like we shouldn't be caring so much about the ships. I don't mind that all we've gotten is a snub fighter and the concept of a tank that might come out later this year for Invictus. And did we get one other thing? It's so meaningless. That's why I was like, I'm trying to even remember. Oh, I don't. Well, if we take the Antares into account, we might as well drop their grade. That's a whole other thing.
How low do you drop their grade for that fucking thing?
That probably 2-letter grades. That goes down to a D. I forgot about the Antares.
There you go.
Like,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I struggle a lot with how Star Citizen deals with ships right now.
I don't think they deal with them in a gameplay. They're not looking at them in terms of the video game. They're looking, that ship was made for a sale exclusively.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah. And this is going to go a little bit into communication, but I really struggled in the first part of this year and a little bit of the last part of this year without getting too much into the prior 6 months. But the whole communication around both the Antares, the new salvage ship, the Vulture, coming into game, purchasable in game. I'm one of the big. I have a starter pack. I exist for the grind, and it was one of those things. We're gonna dive into communication, I guess, now, but it's related to ships. Mm-hmm. When you gate the new salvage gameplay that you're trying to show off, like, hey, we finally get it into the game, guys. Here's salvage.
Playable now.
Yep, playable now. And you can do it with this Vulture, or you can do it with the Reclaimer, which is, there's a wide disparity both in-game availability and, real-life cost to both of those ships.
How long would it take you to earn 15 million in your Aurora so you can try out salvage?
Exactly. And not only that, but we'll probably wipe your progress by the time you're almost there.
Yeah.
So there's that huge gate, and it was one of those things that's like, okay, guys, that's been around for a few months, and then they do that whole thing, and it's like, okay, well, it's one full patch cycle, but we're going to need it to be not like a 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. It needs to be 317 to 318 to get the ship in game, and it's like, but it was like 2 or 3 months between 0.2 and 0.5. I don't understand. And this goes to a communication, because I really just want them to outright start admitting things like, guys, we need money. 6 offices,
like, just be honest.
1,000 employees. Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, the Vulture, we haven't made enough money on it. We know that we dropped it at IAE. It would make sense to release it with Invictus launch. But honestly, we kind of almost want to gate that salvage content to get more of you to buy it so we can pay for all the things that we need to do this year. Like, because that's really the truth. The thing that nobody talks about, and I brought this up at some point earlier, the Scorpius is my other prime example of the pardon my expression, bullshit around the communication regarding when ships go from purchasable real life to purchasable in game. That ship came out in Invictus last year in May. It finally became in game in March of this year. 10 months. Went through at least 6 patches. 317, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 318. That was their mentality. Is like, approximately 90 days is when we release the ship. 1 patch cycle, ideally 1 quarter. And it's like, nah, you wanted that ship out for Invictus launch week, purchasable, and then you resold it again on IAE. You wanted to make sure it was a good ship. It's a cool ship. It's the X-Wing. Let's make as much money as we can off that one. Not purchasable in game yet. We don't want people buying that in game. We want people to want that on the store when they see people flying it around.
Yeah, and the thing that was like really bad about that is they say that like they have this system, but the difference is here is that the game itself and the fact that it still wipes is already doing a good enough job to tell you, okay, so I, like, for an example, somebody like yourself, let's say you earn the vulture in game and you decide that you absolutely love salvaging gameplay. Okay? It's your favorite thing to do in the world. You really like it. They wipe your vulture's progress again. You earn it in game again. They wipe again. At what point are you're going to go to the website and purchase it, right? If that's the type of gameplay that you want, like, the game is already pushing players in that direction to purchase anyway. You don't, like, to me, they don't need this extra time to sell these ships because the game's doing it itself. How many times do you expect players to re-earn these ships? At some point, they're going to be like, all right, well, this is the kind of lineup that I want to start a patch with, and they're going to purchase whatever lineup they have, right? Call it pay to win, call it whatever you want. You know, I see somebody in chat saying stop the wipe. That doesn't help anything either. If we stop the wipe, you're going to see how boring the game is, you know, already. I'm already kind of losing interest in the patches, right? Because there's no reason to make money. Right, so we still need wipes. So we still need to figure out a lot of things with the game, but that's one of the things that around when they put ships up for sale is like the game's already fighting the free to play type player, you know, the one starter package type player already. Like, there's
and
messed up.
Like I'm after meaningful progression, and unfortunately, the only progression in the game is the ships. And, you know, maybe reputation to a slight degree, but until they start gating stuff behind reputation, unlocking ships or weapons or armor or anything, like, I feel like reputation progression just unlocks more money, which grinds up faster to more ships, and that's unfortunate right now.
Yeah, it's just kind of boring way of doing it.
So, but the thing, I mean, and this is another communication piece that I have a huge problem with for the first half of the year. Communication regarding the wipes.
They got it dead wrong every time. Like, holy shit.
And
like, whatever they said was going to happen, they did the opposite every fucking time. It was nuts.
Yep. And what's worse to me is this. I think they owe us some communication. Talk about open game development. I think they owe us some real communication about why wipes are necessary at this point in time. And I really want to understand, why is there some sacred database surrounding your personal hangar of purchase ships and subscriber gear, but we can't get down to that level with regards to
that's so easy. That's so simple. So even I think even I can explain that, and I'm not trying to
please do
put you down at all.
No, that's fine.
Purchases with your account on the website, while there may be like a decent amount of items there, they're never changing. So they're not being stored at a different location. They're not having weapons added to them, having a cargo box being put inside them, right? So it's a way more complicated system and way more opportunities to get corrupted in the game than it is on the website, right? Your website ship is a stock ship. The weapons are always the same. The power plants are always the same, so on. They're always stored in the same place, right? And there's not significant change that is happening on a minute-by-minute basis, where in the game, it's constantly shifting all the time. It's why character repair and things like that have come in instead of resetting, where you take thousands potentially of items and moving them in the game and through the databases. So there's been a lot of talk about that on their side, and it just might have been missed by you or whatever. That stuff is very easy to happen, but I think it's a very simple reason why it's more complicated to maintain a database in the game than it is on the website. But the fact that they've never had a failure, in comparison to the constant failures that we have, fair enough. But, yeah.
Well, I get what you're saying. I guess my only thing would be then, I mean, I move my one starter ship around pretty frequently.
But you're the exception rather than the rule of having one ship, right? You're actually the exception.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I changed its components out. I store it in other locations. I put gear in it. I mean, I don't know. I guess.
What about the guy who has 30 ships, and then is earning more in game, buying ship components, swapping them in and out, cargo haulers, right? There's just, again, it's infinitely more opportunities for things to break.
Hey, I got a question for you. A question. You brought it up, so I wanted to know your thoughts on it.
Okay.
Speaking of the people that own 30 ships in game or vast fleets, I feel like this is a communication piece kind of related. I feel like they've done a really poor job of communicating what that's ultimately going to look like.
Yeah.
When this game releases.
I think they are vague on purpose because it makes them more money.
I think it's not. This is what I worry they've built. I think it's a house of cards that they've built with regards to large fleets that one person owns and stuff like that. Like, if you want this game to have any meaning later on, and you want, this is all assuming a lot of things, like that they actually get server meshing technology to work, and you can actually have like servers of 10 to 20,000 people and stuff like that. Like, I feel like there's got to be a point at which you have like storage fees, just docking rights somewhere, and people with ships
there
like
needs to be syncs
Idrises.
for people like that. There has to be syncs.
Yeah.
Like you cannot, you already get the advantage of starting out with your pay to win. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Write it in the comments. You're an idiot. It's pay to win. Okay. But they have to reduce the pay to win as much as possible by adding the cost to it. They've always communicated that costs will be associated with these things. Running a crew, fuel costs, maintenance costs. They even say it in variation between even small ships. The comparison between the two, like a prospector versus a mole. They were always like, well, yeah, 3 prospectors will have more maintenance because now you have to maintain 3 ships versus the 1. So that was like kind of one of the selling points for using a mole, that before they actually made the real selling points for using a mole, because gameplay is way better than costs or whatever. But I think they have to do that stuff. And honestly, I don't care if those players quit. I think a lot of the players who are currently very interested in Star Citizen from those standpoints are likely not going to be the players playing the game when the game is actually released. I think a lot of those players like the idea of what Star Citizen is in their minds, which CIG is very vague about, and on purpose. So those players continue to buy ships, and they certainly don't like what Star Citizen is becoming. And those are the Spectrum posters, those are the leave me alone pirates or griefer or whatever, those type of posters. Those guys aren't going to be playing Star Citizen, or they're going to be playing it in their little safe corner in Terra or whatever. And again, I hope that they do get those places for them, but they won't be able to play Star Citizen, the overall experience, if they're not venturing out and risking those fleets in some way.
I agree with that. I just struggle when I hear, I was listening to another stream, and they were theory crafting what big ship they might reveal at CitizenCon, and somebody brought up like the idea of an Anvil capital ship. I agree with you, but it's one of those things, and like somebody brought up the idea of the Anvil capital ship, and people were like, "Oh, I can't wait! Add it to my fleet! And I'm like, why? Like, there's no. And this is what's worrying me about the discussion of the game for the next 6 months is like, there's no indication that we are ever getting to a point anytime soon where these capital ships are feasible in game. And one, I think there's too many in number. There's not enough players. If everybody, even if they got server meshing to the point where, 10,000 people in a server, when there's like 30 or 40 people that own Javelins, Idrises, multiple Krakens and stuff like that, like there's just not enough crew.
They don't have enough friends to fly them. Yeah.
Exactly. And even if they were to just put out massive, answer the call style, posts and stuff like that, I'm just not sure. This is such a niche gaming community that I'm not sure there's enough people to fill the vast majority of fleets that exist. You've got these people that have like 30 ships.
Good. Thank you for supporting my space game that I'm going to play.
I'm not.
Right? Like, I don't concern myself with that shit at all. Keep buying ships that you're not going to fly, and I am totally fine with it, right? because even the ones that are like, well, I'll let my org fly them. Your org's not big enough, most likely, to fly all these ships, like you're saying. So it's just like, I don't concern myself at all with that stuff, as long as what we discussed earlier, that there are proper in-game solutions to the problems that selling ships has caused.
To be clear, I know I get the whole. Personally, it's not a care in terms of who buys what. Yeah. What I concern myself with is, why are they like, if they were to spend time developing that stuff, that would be what bothers me. I'd be like, I'd rather you guys go spend the vast majority of your ship development time going back and refactoring the ships that we already have. Because that's one of my big questions. And what I think is another discussion point, Ode, is like, hey, where do we stand on physicalized components in the rest of the ship? You have to go back and do that for resource management, engineering, gameplay. That's a big thing. There's over 100, 120 variants in game, and probably 30% of them are new enough to have just components that you can salvage right now and are already built into the ship and are probably ready, or most ready, for resource management. This highly touted, this is going to change the game. It's going in with master modes, 4.0, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't want you wasting time on, the next Anvil capital ship. You've got a huge mountain of tech debt that you owe on the ship side of the house. Now, granted, I got it. The concept artists have plenty of time to dream up Anvil capital ships and stuff like that, but do not waste development time on it. Feeding into the, I need yet another ship in my fleet to the whales game.
I think one of the communication things from this year that was actually pretty positive so far is they talked about how they're, like, before this team's even created, they were sharing that Montreal is going to get a ship team and is, currently building it now. And it's to, build more ships as well as help with cleaning up the backlog. So the fact that they're expanding those teams, and then there was even more communication on it more recently to expand those teams. I thought that their communication around this subject actually improved in the last few months rather than the way it's been over the last few years. So
that's fair.
I think it's improving, but then immediately you look at the progress tracker, unannounced ship on Montreal, and I just want to fucking bang my head against the wall and just be like, why, right? Because they're not working on the backlog. But is it better to work on the backlog to teach the new Montreal devs on how to make ships, or is it better to start from scratch? It's probably better to start from scratch, and then they can go to the backlog stuff. So there's that as well, right? I think that they probably want to teach them the whole process rather than half of it. So I kind of understand it, but at the same time, I do think that they've improved on that communication on that front.
That's fair. Yeah. Well, I got one more big communication piece.
All right.
And I feel like it's the I don't want to call it the elephant in the room, because but it's close to. Mm-hmm. So persistent entity streaming. The idea, they communicated a lot. Both May last year, December with the 2 letters from the chairman, and then earlier
fucking
this
Chris
year.
Roberts. If he didn't say anything, this wouldn't be bad. As bad as it is.
I don't want to talk too much about the server meshing thing, but the next big step, right? Okay, we get persistent entity streaming in the game. We what they call it, harden it. They harden it. I like that quote. But the next big step is, okay, now we got to separate the dedicated game server from the replication layer. And there, it was like, okay, this is the first blocker. This is like blocker B, part B. And they made it sound like that was, and this goes to their communication, right? They build the narrative that's like okay, that should be only like 1 or 2 months after we get persistent entity streaming hardened, and then it's server meshing, static server meshing coming right after that, because this is the thing that unlocks static server meshing. We separate these two things, and now we're almost there. And it's been 6 months. I think 6 months is a reasonable amount of time to say you've been hardening persistent entity streaming.
It's time for another update.
I agree. It's time for another update. And I think the update.
I think it's time
really
for a postmortem.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I'll settle though. I don't need a full 318 postmortem. Just give us a discussion post saying, "Hey, PES is meeting or not meeting our expectations of what we needed for persistence." Like, or it's one of those things like, "Hey, it wasn't where we thought it was right in the beginning. We think a little more time to harden it, but it's not going to be another iCache. This is it. We're going with this. It can go to scale. We've tested that much of it. We need to iron out some more kinks. That's what's taken us a long time. Or B, it's, okay, we've got this. All right, let's talk about where the next steps are. This is where we're struggling with the idea of separating the DGS and the replication layer. Just let us know, because instead we sit in the dark and it's like, dude, it's been 6 months, and you got CitizenCon coming up, and we're about to go into a content drought. And a lot of us are just wondering, because we feel like we're at this crux, this tipping point with Star Citizen, at least some of us, where it's like, this is either going to work or it's not, at least in terms of what they want. Yep. And I agree with a lot of people that server meshing is not the god tech that's going to somehow come in and save this game, but I do worry, and it's mainly from the standpoint of AI. Like, if you can't get the AI to function in game and round out your economy and handle all the additional stuff that you want on server load, then this will potentially fail. Yeah. Or at the very least, it will not end up being what everybody hoped it would be. And so I feel like you have to be honest and upfront and blatant and regularly communicate. And then they did that server meshing video back in January, and that, oh man, talk about a faith destroyer right there. Because again, they built this narrative where it was like, oh, look, guys, we just got to get PES in, and once PES is in, that's the last major hurdle. We've got this server meshing thing figured out for the most part. We just got to get this PES thing figured out. And then you get to the point, it's like, oh no, you haven't been working on it.
It's most of the work to get to server meshing. Remember that comment?
Yeah, exactly. And it was a narrative that they built for 4, 5, 6 years.
Guys, and at CitizenCon, you're going to jump to Pyro again. Guaranteed. For the 4th CitizenCon in a row.
This is another communication thing that I really struggle with. Like, they can't do that again this year. I don't know if they know that or not.
Oh, they're gonna do it again.
Do that again this year.
There's no way they're not. Of course they are. What else are they gonna do?
Hopefully anything else. And this goes to CitizenCon. I don't know why they're having one this year. Unless they've got really solid gold in their pocket of like, guys, we're gonna bring a full demo of Squadron 42. We're going to let people play it. We're going to play it up on the big screen. We're going to, you're going to play like the first 2 chapters. You're going to see master modes in action on all these like core fighters and stuff like that. And it's going to look way more polished than the last Vertical Slice. Like, unless they're doing that, I don't know why they're doing a CitizenCon. Like, I just don't. Because I'm with you. I don't know what, like, you're going to fill 2 days? 2 days.
I don't know how. Only that. I know why they're doing a CitizenCon. I mean, it's bringing the community back together, all those things. Like the actual in-person stuff is good for out of game reasons. I think the Star Citizen community would love to get together in one place and all be brought. There are very good things about it from a in-game or progress or whatever standpoint. Yeah. I think last year's format would have worked a lot better. One hour long ISC essentially.
I agree. I think the previous years were better formats, and what I appreciated and what I worry about especially with last week's ISC with Jared saying like, well, if you know what the 3 months prior to CitizenCon is usually like, then you'll understand how next quarter's ISC is going to go. And it's like, did he just admit that it's going to be lacking in meaningful content because they're going to save that stuff for CitizenCon?
Yeah, he always says that. I mean, they've admitted that for years. That's not even a hidden thing.
Yeah. But that's the problem is now we're going to be 3 months in the dark, lacking in real communication about the major stuff that, keeps us hopeful for the game. And, we'll just be wondering, hey, how's it going with resource management? How's it going with master modes? Is there any light at the end of this tunnel? How's it going with the server meshing, key blockers, and technologies and stuff like that. If you'll come
hear
to
it in October
CitizenCon,
2023, I'm sure.
but they better deliver. And it's one of those things. It's like you can't just talk to us about it anymore this October. Otherwise, it's CitizenCon last year.
That's what's going to happen this year. I mean, I don't know what you're expecting, but that's what's going to happen. They're just going to talk about these things, and they're not going to be ready. I don't know.
To be clear, that's what I'm expecting as well. I'm hoping to be wrong. And that's what I'm saying is like this is not my hopium. This is my fear.
Yeah, you
this is
won't
my
be wrong.
Concern.
You're
like these are the discussion concerns I have. Because it's one of those things like I want them to succeed with this space game. I want them to, but you gotta give us some light at the end of the tunnel. You guys gotta at least keep us, huffing on the hopium or something like that, because I feel like this is kind of a dark time for Star Citizen. This is, they're really at the tipping point of whether they prove. Well, I think this is the tipping point of whether they prove they're technologically capable of making this game in the next 2 years, or if it is legitimately 5 years down the road.
Yeah, here's what the next little while is. I don't want to put a time on it because who knows, but they attempt this server meshing thing, it works or it doesn't, and then it's either Star Citizen dies because it doesn't, it succeeds because it does, or they shift whatever the scope of the game is to work within the constraints that they have, and then they try and keep it going. And I don't think anybody will be mega interested in a dumbed down version of Star Citizen, because then it's more just like every other game. And then that's when your games like Starfield, Elite Dangerous, and others start to be able to be compared to Star Citizen. So yeah, we'll see. But we are coming up towards where I would like to end the show. So I would say find your last points and we could start wrapping up.
Okay. Well, you brought up Starfield, and I'll bring it back to that because I agree that the two games aren't comparable, and it's a silly comparison.
Well, let's try and stick to the topic of the progress report. Okay, as long as you're coming around with Starfield.
I'm coming right back in.
Cool.
I think it's undeniable that the games like Starfield coming out have an undeniable psychological effect on the community and the expectations for the next year or two.
Yes. So, I mean, we'll expect more from them.
Exactly. And if they fail to deliver and they fail to adequately communicate with us in the interim while those games and other high visibility projects come out and distract the community, I worry for the continued staying power of the community, the goodwill. They have a goodwill bank with the Star Citizen fans right now. And they've been drawing out of that goodwill bank, I feel like, for the last 6 months really heavily with the bad patches, or the unstable patches, I should say, playable now commercials, poor decisions with regards to ship sales and design, like the Antares, not putting the Vulture in game with the initial salvage thing. Like, the goodwill bank is quickly emptying, and there's only so much more they've got. If they do another CitizenCon, where it's, another jump gate to Pyro and, there's no actual gameplay coming with it, or, it's just another, hey, let's look at the pretty planets of Pyro again, but with more things on them, or, any of these intangible things that we can't see any, results with, I think the goodwill bank is quickly almost empty. And that's my concern.
And that's obviously for you and for your opinion. I don't think the goodwill bank is emptying for most of the community, or a good part of it. I agree with you. Obviously, I just think that the goodwill bank is never ending for some people in the community. What I also think is what I think is actually going to happen is what's been happening over the last year or so is Cyberpunk releases, other games release poorly. The Last of Us Part 2, whatever, on PC, all these things. And then CIG, every CIG employee that I follow on Twitter retweets the post of all the apologies from other game dev studios, almost like it was on purpose, like they all were told to in a way, and be like, see, we're just like them. And it's like, dude, we don't want you to be just like them. That's why we're here. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And that's like one of the things that Starfield's not going to release in a good way at all. We all know that. Everybody knows that. Anybody who thinks it's going to release perfectly is insane. CIG is going to point at that and go, see, look, they're just like us. And then that's their goodwill bank all over again. Because every time there's a bad release for a AAA game, you kind of look at CIG and go, oh, I'm glad they're taking their time. And then they get that additional little sprinkle of goodwill. Like, maybe CIG is doing it the right way. And
that's fair.
And they use that to their advantage. Don't get me wrong. I agree with you. My goodwill bank has been dry forever.
I was gonna say yours has been. I thought they put a little bit back in with mining. I watch your show pretty regularly, and you seemed pretty jazzed about mining. I didn't blame you at all about that either. I think it was a good re-addition to the goodwill bank, but then now it's broken again. So
sort of. It's not about mining. It's about actually building for the future. Mining's the first thing they built for the future. It had nothing to do with mining in particular. It was the first time that they had an actual look forward, and I could see the future with it, and it was like, wow, this is cool, right? But
yep.
Yeah, I think they're going to use that. Whatever Starfield's poor launch will look like, they're going to use that to their advantage and point to it, guarantee it. But all right, Night Cobb, I think this is where we'll probably call it, and I appreciate you coming on very much. It was I think we talked for like almost 40 minutes, you and I, so it was a good one.
Well, thanks for having me on. This is my second time calling, by the way, and I just wanted to say thank you. The last time you taught me about some voice beater banana tips and tricks and stuff like that. Thanks again for that.
Fuck, I don't even use it anymore. I hate that program so much. I'm glad yours comes through clearly. I've had my struggles with it. It drives me nuts.
That's fair. Yeah. Anyway, hey, appreciate your show. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, man. No problem. And thank you for coming on. It was a good and fun conversation.
All right. Take care.
Later, man. All right. That was that. And that was the show. Thank you for watching. Answer the call. I thought it was a good topic. I really did. And I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I think after 6 months, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot that could happen. So as always, like, subscribe, all that stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, we do record these on Twitch and in our Discord, twitch.tv/saltymike, discord.gg/saltymike. If you're watching on Twitch and you didn't catch the whole thing, it'll be up on YouTube later today, youtube.com/@saltymike. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you guys next week, where I hopefully have a good topic, but I don't think I'm going to have one because nothing's happening.